This is my dream game Extra Human, inspired by these being the most influential of all, because I want to inspire people to chase their dreams like Ratchet and Clank did for me when I was a little kid. I've been working full time as a sole indie dev on this game for a year now, and I'm finally up to making a trailer. So if you like me and what I'm doing, you know what to do. But if not, thanks for the view. It rhymed. That was convenient. In my last devlog, I set up a full enemy behavioral script without any playtesting whatsoever, and now nothing works. This is part 5 of Extra Human Devlogs. But before I could climb up a tree and shout, ooh, ooh, ah, ah, in monkey, I had to go back and properly make the script. After I figured out the problem, I actually did a good job. But I didn't realize this delicious little rigid banana over here was over here, which in terms of the Unity game engine was the same thing as putting banana in exhaust pipe, which even I know is bad, and I'm not vroom vroom guy. I don't do fix vroom vroom. I bet the first thing you'd think any game dev does when they miss something is they run a custom script to fix it for them, right? Yeah, no. So what I did after scouring the code for logic errors for I don't even know how long, was what we devs often do when we can't figure what's wrong with our code and cry to Mr. Wi-Fi that I don't know for about 3 days. And that's when I found it. A forum saying put rigid banana on the parent when the child object are being used as hittable thingies. So I went, yep, I did that. And then about half an hour later, I went, but what if I checked it though? And the rigid banana wasn't there. I essentially just stuck a banana in exhaust pipe. Yeesh. So I unclogged it and pressed play, and happened this. Whoosh. So after pressing some keys and playing it again, it's visible now, and this guy, he wants to find some cheese underground, so he's gonna go sniffing for it and completely ignore what I want. One day later. So I kind of started doing stuff and forgot to write what I did again. So why the enemy doesn't work, I don't know. So after a collective week across this and the last video, I decided that I didn't actually need an enemy script to scare the crap out of players. Yet. I just needed to move him around on a timeline because he be massive. So I straight neglected the script and sat him in a little wony corner over here. He's not going to get touched until after I release the trailer. So I focused up for making Extra Human trailer. Now I know the number one key for catching eyes with this is going to be making an epic spectacle and then show the funny side and how my game is targeted as the number one goal to have fun. And in that order. Then to make a bunch of cool gifts like Game Dev Unlocked and Rollerdrome. That's how it's gonna boost. So I made a rock. That's right, a rock. And I gave it some color, plopped it over here. Then the next one I made was also to show that the world has a lot of things to explore and to bonk. But you'll never guess what it is. I made another rock, but a big one, and with a vine growing out of it. And doing both of these took like 2 days because game dev as a solo person is really slow. Then to give it some flesh, take 2 flesh. I made up this mangrove town over here and set up some atmosphere to tease the environment a little bit for the story. Especially with this rock over here. That will be used as a spectacle in the gameplay trailer. The next thing, the ground usually looks like ground in game trailers. So I made sand dunes and yellowed them all up and put sand texture on them, and for like a week struggled to make it both look and move like sand because Unity terrain. I even tried making my own brush for 2 days. So I'm gonna shelf that one up here. And to making the waterwork with the fog I got from Ace Roller. That's gonna be abandoned for this. Because the fog uses depth from the camera to determine how much thickness it needs. And the water shader is a little sneaky boy, thinks he can get away with it because it's transparent and not need to report as thick. So a bit later, while I was working, I was watching my little brother play Breath of the Wild on Discord. And if you want to join my Discord server, you can talk with me. I did not just hit my hand on the table. You can work with me, and you can see some cool stuff coming up with the game in the future. And he helped me figure out that even a AAA studio like Nintendo doesn't even use sand tessellation, the moving sands. That's what it means, tessellation. Even the AAA studios ignore this, likely because of performance hits, but I couldn't figure it out, so I don't know. So I was going up against a AAA issue. Now that I've given up on sand tessellation completely, I am being satisfied with the optical illusion of my sand that my brother said was better than Zelda's. He then helped me find a solution to the waterplane fog as well, but 3 days later, I still couldn't make the code figured out. I couldn't make the shaded values change as I wanted in code, so shelved. Now with the environment ready, I started making the trailer timeline and special attack animations. It took about 3 days to get the timing right, and then another 2 days to figure out how to make the tendril into a mesh, since animating line renderers are really tough and don't have a mesh. Then a day went to figuring out how to export it properly, since FBX files like bones and no curves, but apparently ABC Alemanic files are good with curves, but need a package to handle it. So after figuring out how to use the ABCs, I chucked it into the timeline, tweaked the scale, speed, and timing for like an hour and a bit, and bam, one of the 3 tendrils done. So with the knowledge of what I'm actually doing now, the animations are done, and making the abs render the curves on export because there's no actual mesh. The first scene is now prototyped. So I threw the other 2 tendrils into the timeline and tweaked the files for the timing for multiple days. Then I got really excited seeing it starting to become real. And now, just a few effects, atmosphere, music left, and the camera here. In frame, here. You'll have to wait to see the fully finished thing with the music. I'm sure I'll do a devlog on the music, but you're not going to hear the full track until the trailer comes out. Then adding red to the tendrils apparently was a bad idea because it worked at first, but after reloading the project, I think the material went skydiving off a cliff because it didn't stick the landing and turned completely white in shock. Apparently Alembic files like only being albino. So I cried to Mr. Wi-Fi again. And seek and you shall find. Because I found out the version of Unity I was using was in the middle of integrating a Alembic material support thingy. So I found and ripped 2 scripts from the Unity experimental GitHub and found out it wants a FBX sibling of the Alembic file synced to each other to consume. So a day later, I found out newer versions of Unity actually have Alembics fully supported with materials, and I don't have to sync an alternate timeline variant of the Alembic sibling, and it doesn't need to get eaten. So I hit update and prayed that no Unity problems in the project versus new version would come up, and my phone's about to die. I need to charge. We're charged, and there isn't a single problem. And there it is. Glorious red. And why red, you ask, instead of blue or transparent? You shall find out after you get the game, because there's story reasons for it. And red only works here because it's technically a nightmare of what his future could be. It was now, in this timeline of events, I remembered seeing Danny's trailer video and how impactful just some black cuts for dramatism was. So I went yoink and positioned forward the black frames as I needed with fades, and 3 days later, I looked at my trailer planning to see I still needed a epic victory roar with lots of fire and glowiness. So I think that took 2 days. But with that, the first part of the trailer is completely done. So comment what you think of the fire, because I don't know if it really works. I based it off of Kuma Films' underwater flare thing here for underwater fire. And I used the emissiveness of the material to sell the underwater effect because it didn't actually glow. So yay or no for underwater fire raw. And I just realized I need to give the Colosseum some color outside of the pristine white. But I'm gonna leave that for the next video, and I go to edit this video and turn the notes into funnies. Oh, and at some point I made the fog work in the editor, not just play mode. And bye bye!